name right. Is it Chisari? Is that your last name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to start with the pledge.
So it's pledge, yes, and then I'll do a roll call.
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Thank you. Trustee White, Trustee Fritchie,
Present.
and Mayor Levin.
Present.
First matter tonight, Mayor, is In Re Serenita Lounge appeal pursuant to Village Code Section 171-29 from the July 3, 2023 suspension order.
Thank you. Mr. Chisari, I'm going to turn it over to you, just so you know, and also for the record, Trustee Manuel Quesada is on his way, stuck right here in our village in traffic, so he will be in here any minute, but we just didn't want to hold up any longer. Okay, you're on, sir.
Thank you. At this point, we ask that the order be overturned for that the village failed to prove that Serenita Lounge violated any law, ordinance, rule, or regulation. In fact, all they were alleged to have violated was a form that they filled out with the State Liquor Authority. And on those several dates, they made referrals to the State Liquor Authority, which at this time has not brought even any charges against Serenita Lounge for violating any of their rules, laws, or regulations. With that being said, we'd ask that they haven't sustained their burden. And in fact, the occupancy of the building prior to 2022, August of 2022, I believe was 46 people. And the occupancy after my client made an application to the town was 73 people. If we take the town's position or the village's position, police department's position, that a number written on a form submitted to the State Liquor Authority is binding for a maximum occupancy. If my client had written 173 on the form, does that mean he's allowed to have 173 people in violation of the certificate of occupancy, which your village issued? Because under the logic of violating this number they wrote for the State Liquor Authority, which again hasn't brought any charges against them, and in fact at the hearing, the police officers even testified they haven't even been contacted by the State Liquor Authority, that they violated any of the State Liquor Authority's rules. They also haven't violated any New York State fire codes. At this point, I feel that the clerk overstepped her authority by sustaining the charges and issuing the suspension order.
Okay, thank you. And just matter of information, the order is to the end of this month.
August 2nd, it would expire.
August
30 days.
2nd.
It went into effect on July 3.
So that's like in a week or a week and a half, something like that. Okay, can you, as counsel, sort of inform us as to a point of view on this?
The position that the village took was that on multiple occasions, the police conducted checks of Serenita Lounge, as well as other establishments in the village. And the document that Mr. Chisari refers to is called an establishment questionnaire, which is a document that is filed by the applicant with the State Liquor Authority. That questionnaire indicates that the occupancy was 25. And it was based upon that the Ossining Police on multiple occasions issued the referrals to the State Liquor Authority for being in violation of the questionnaire. Mr. Chisari is right. There has been no determination by the State Liquor Authority. But again, we go by the document that the applicant, in fact, filed with the State Liquor Authority, which indicated 25. And there was testimony from Officer Carlson. There was testimony from Sergeant Chavez. Documents were admitted into evidence, which I believe the board has been provided with, that indicated what the referrals were. on the different dates, because this was something that went over multiple weekends with regard to the operation at the Sirenita Lounge. And it was a 30-day suspension effective July 3. Expiration currently is August 2 of this year.
And so is this about occupancy rate?
This
Based
is
on the
about,
questionnaire?
I apologize, Mayor. This is about that the document submitted by the applicant indicates a maximum occupancy of 25. That was his
For their
submission
business?
for their business.
Right.
And that by that he did not have, that he was when he exceeded that number, it resulted in in multiple referrals to the state liquor authority by the Ossining Police Department.
If I may, I'm sorry, Mr. Connors.
Sure, go ahead, Lou.
If I may, Your Honor, Mr. Khan can't even cite what rule or regulation that supposedly going over this number in the establishment questionnaire, it would violate with the state liquor authority. So we don't even know if it is a violation. And again, going back to what Mr. Khan said, well, a number on a piece of paper to a form that was submitted to another government entity. Well, what if they had written 173 people on that form? Would we now be here there with Mr. Khan alleging and the village alleging that they violated the 73-person certificate of occupancy that your village issued? I mean, going by the logic that's being used here is some form that was submitted to a government agency that hasn't even brought any disciplinary charges against Sirenita Lounge. Neither has the village of Ossining for violating their, in other words, they didn't write any criminal tickets that I apologize for my phone going off. They didn't even write any fire code violations because they didn't go over their certificate of occupancy. Again, it goes back to this form they filed with the state, I think 8 years ago. And again, even when they filed it, whoever filled it out incorrectly and wrote 25 when their actual certificate of occupancy at that time was 43 or 46. And then my client had the village, he applied to the village, and the village raised it to 73. Once again, under Mr. Khan's logic, that if he had written 173 or 273 people on this form, he could have that many in there, which defies logic because then that would make it an unsafe capacity. He had at one point 39 people in the place, another time 64, 39, and 34 people respectively, and I think one other time 48 people. He never even came, other than one evening, came close to the 73 people, which is his actual legal occupancy of the place, of the location. So once again, the village cannot point to any actual statute, rule, or regulation that was violated, or there's been even a determination that they've been violated, or there's even been written a ticket, a violation from the state liquor authority, a violation from the fire department, the building department, none of that.
All right, so one of the questions I have, Stuart, is while it's an interesting use of the vocabulary that it's a form to some government. So these forms are actual legal documents filled incorrectly, correctly. That's sort of, for me, doesn't hold any water. Those documents actually drive how businesses get licensed. It's not just some government agency. Liquor is a highly regulated industry. These forms determine the number of bathrooms, the number of employees, the number of parking spots, the number. So since this is being recorded, let me say that I've sat through enough conversations to know that the reference to it's just a form and he did it wrong is not actually an excuse of any sort. These are the things that drive all the documentation. It's not just a government agency, it's a licensing agency. They're supposed to be done correctly. If you don't do them correctly, do them again. and get it done right. And they drive what you're allowed to have and what you're not. And it drives how many employees you have to hire. If you have a low number, you hire fewer people, et cetera. And it goes on and on. Bathrooms, bouncers, it just goes through a list. So this referral, that's to me not the issue. The issue is, what is the role of the clerk in this? Because the only comment I heard that made sense to me is about, for me, and there are 3 other people sitting here, so I just want to get clarity about this, is what is the role of the clerk in this?
Clerk
Because
is-
it's talking about overreaching.
the clerk
Yeah,
is-
I'd like to just add-
Excuse, sir, not a question to you, a question to our attorney.
the clerk is the license officer.
Okay,
So under the code, the clerk is the individual who, when the referral is made to the state liquor authority, indicating a potential violation, it is the clerk who sends out the provisional order to remedy letter. It is the clerk who conducts the hearing, and it's the clerk who would then issue the suspension order. As the licensing official, she is the person who grants the license and has the ability to suspend and or revoke.
okay. So just so I understand the process, the police were in there, the numbers on an official document submitting to a licensing to the state liquor authority, which governs the sale of liquor. That's what was used. The numbers on that is what was used, and her role is to report, or your role and hers to report to the state liquor authority. Do you have to have tickets? Do you have to prove guilt? Do you have to prove a crime? Because that's what the attorney is referring to. So I'm trying to understand what
I
the
just want to be
process is.
clear. Neither the clerk nor I make the report. The
Okay,
referral is in fact made by the police.
okay,
And there's a form which, and it has an email address, and they can email it to the state, and it lists what they observed as what they perceive to be a violation
okay,
of this. And in this case, it was the 25 person, number of people to be in the location
right,
based upon the employment questionnaire. So it's the police who fill it out. The clerk is then notified of the referral, and that then generated the initial letter, which is the provisional order. There was a hearing conducted on June 30th. That led to the suspension order. And then
what
we're
was
appealing
on
it here.
June, I'm sorry, June 30th?
June 30th was the hearing.
Okay,
The order of suspension was issued on July 3.
and who was at the June hearing?
It was presided over by the clerk.
Okay,
Mr. Cesari was there.
okay,
Mr. Collado Martinez from Amaris, from the Serenita was there.
okay,
And Officer Carlson and Sergeant Chavez,
okay.
as well as myself,
And the outcome of that hearing,
was an order of suspension, which is what is being appealed to you today.
right, so there isn't required from what you're describing, a need to prove innocence or guilt. There is a referral to the state liquor authority.
That's right. What the police do, and it's not just for Serenita, but other locations, if they go in and they observe a violation, it could be serving underage, it could be blocking the window or anything like that.
Anything, okay,
They will write a referral to the state liquor authority, and then that will wend its way however the state SLA wants to deal with it. But it is the act of what the OPD does, Austin Police does, which results in the clerk taking her action, issuing the provisional order, and then just to be pointed out, the applicant always has the right to have a hearing, which is what Mr. Cesari requested.
Mhm.
That was the hearing that was held in this room on June the 30th. And then that resulted then in the order of the suspension.
okay. So my last question is, I mean, to me, it's whether the clerk so we're being asked to override something or overturn. So I'm trying to figure out, based on what did she overstep her role? I mean, she's not sitting in a judicial position, is she?
She's here. It's essentially, it's a hearing as a licensing officer to make a determination as to whether or not there was a violation of terms of his license. The license requires that he is to comply with all requirements, both village and SLA, and that would include what he's got on his forms. So
Because the form is what you're using.
yes, we are using
the
the employment
numbers.
form as the basis.
Got it.
That was the basis for the police's OPD's referrals.
Got it. Okay, so that was my point of clarity. I'm going to turn this over to others who might have a question or comment.
I do have a question. The 2022 placard that said occupancy by more than 73 persons is dangerous and unlawful. That's different than 25. Why is it different, and which number rules the
Who
day
are you
here?
asking? Are you asking Louis Chisari or are you asking our attorney?
Oh, Stuart, our attorney.
Okay, the 73 number, I forget what it is, 73 or 76. That number was based upon an inspection by the building department. If you go to the fire code, there's an actual calculation, how you figure out, goes by number of tables, chairs, size. What the basis here was not the 76. The basis here was the 25 that was on the form.
That's the number
That's the
that
number.
matters.
That's the number that, for purposes of today's hearing, the purpose of what the clerk did, it's the 25 that matters. It's because that was the number that the applicant had on his forms filed with the State Liquor Authority. So correct, the 70, there's no disputing that the building department did an inspection. They found that it was 76 at the time they did the inspection, but the number is based upon the questionnaire. I won't say that one trumps another. What I will say is that it was based upon the application filed with the SLA by this applicant, and that it was there. As we have, as this board is aware, applicants can certainly go to the SLA and change, and submit
Right.
to change. And that certainly can be done. But
Yeah.
the basis here was the 25, and that was the employment questionnaire.
Have any other questions for either Mr. Chisari or Stuart Kahan? Gentlemen, does anybody here have a question or comment or thought?
Thank
Please.
you. Sorry, it was a few minutes delayed traffic portion of that, but just a point of clarification, I'm looking at the PDF, Stuart, is 73.
73, okay.
Yeah. I just want-
Whatever it says on that, I may
Yeah.
have the number wrong,
So-
but it's whatever it says there.
So, no, then that's okay. So, and again, thank you for clarifying what the number means from 25 to 73, and pretty much that is the basics of what we're seeing in here now. And I guess Chisari, hopefully I didn't mispronounce your last name, sir. You also did mention a couple minutes back where your client has been applied or has applied to change the number of 25 to increase that. Is that correct?
He has not applied for that yet because under the rules,
How long ago?
under the rules of the State Liquor Authority, no change to the license can go while there's an outstanding disciplinary matter. They have a disciplinary manner for
Okay.
termination
you-
pending. And
Thank
the
you.
Liquor Authority will not resolve them until the federal lawsuit filed against the village is resolved. But also, if I may bring up something
Yeah,
that
no, thank you. So my other question to you is, you also mentioned that when he first applied for the liquor license, I'm assuming you more or less, you said about 8 years ago, is that correct?
I believe it was 2015, yes.
Okay. So from 2015 to 2020, let's say, or to now that we're in 2023, obviously, but prior pandemic, your client never attempted to modify this particular, occupancy load and occupancy portion of that for the LSL?
He went through the village to raise the village. The village didn't
But
raise.
that's not what I'm asking you.
He did, and it was rejected because apparently the village rejected his cabaret license
Prior to pandemic?
prior to the I believe it was during the pandemic. It started
What
before.
I asked you is prior to pandemic. I didn't ask you after pandemic. What I said is like, how come he didn't? So he has waited all this time, close to 8 years to try to figure out and change this?
Again, he started prior to the pandemic, then everything was put on hold during the pandemic, and then during the pandemic, at some point, you rejected his cabaret license and they rejected his method of operation change. So, but also. something
Okay,
else.
so, and I'm sorry, do you have any documentations that can prove that your client tried to amend this prior pandemic?
I can get it from my client. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have it with me right this second, but yes, I can get it.
Okay, I don't know if there's any relevance for that. I would just be curious to see if that is correct. I don't have any additional questions right now, but thank you.
Well,
So right now, they can't apply to increase their number because we have them suspended.
no,
I think that what, I think, and this is what I'm hearing for the first time, I think what Mr. Chisari said, I think part of it is because of the federal lawsuit. So I think with, that all needs to get cleared. I know that there's another matter where the court has directed a hearing because there was a suspension of the license by the state liquor authority that got lifted. And the court, Judge Case directed a new hearing. So what I'm gathering from what Mr. Chisari said, and he certainly can clarify, is that until all that gets cleared up, those numbers can't get changed. So the 25 can't get changed, the method of operation can't get changed. So that's sort of being held.
and just for point of clarification, because this is being recorded, I just want to make very clear, the village doesn't have a case here. It is actually Mr. Chisari's client who filed against the village, not the village. And it is, so just to make sure we understand the process. And while we don't suspend, and historically a lot of cabaret license, all of that information is also on public record from months and years ago of how that played out and the issues there. Have any, that was just because people look at recordings, but they don't bother to go back and look at recordings to see what actually happened in the process and all of the work that goes into it, et cetera, et cetera.
So if I'm understanding this right, we're basically at a stalemate because of the federal case.
No, they are.
We're not at a
The-
stalemate.
The village is not,
Yeah.
if any change that Serenita would want to make
Okay.
is being, that's on their end, not from our end.
They are alleging all sorts of stuff. It is, they pull the trigger and now the state, apparently it's like Stuart says, first time we're hearing it, according to their attorney. Because of that, one of the consequences is that they can't move forward. That's not the village doing, it's
That they can't move
what
forward.
they instigated.
They're not that the state cannot move forward. The New York State Liquor Authority is refusing to move forward because of the allegations in the federal lawsuit. Not that they can't,
Oh, so so you're arguing it's not that they can't, they won't.
they will not. That was under the old chairman who was fired by the governor, and a new chairman's been put in place, and
None of the political who's who and what's what matters in this situation. That's just loading the cart with a whole bunch of information. It has nothing to do with us, who's who and what's what at the federal and state and all the other levels. That's not really our issue here tonight. What is at issue is information that I guess was brought forth, which is good. And again, it's simply Mr. Chisari's opinion. Stuart Kahan is only hearing it for the first time, is that the state is not willing to, apparently, we don't know for sure, because they have filed a case. So that's between them and the state. It has nothing, State Liquor Authority has nothing to do with arsoning, from what I'm hearing, unless did I misread?
No, that's correct,
Okay.
Mayor, what you said.
So what we're being asked to do is overturn what the clerk did after a hearing held with the people that you heard in the room. None of us were there. Based on that, that she suspended for 30 days, right? The third is 30 days. And we're being asked by Mr. Chisari to say, hey, this reaches the bar where you should overturn it. What I heard was about occupancy, but I didn't hear any, like, I don't really know what she overstepped, to be honest with you. You want us to ride because she overstepped, but it doesn't sound like she overstepped anything. So I don't know what to do with this information. Like, where did she overstep?
I may, in your own provision,
Please.
in the clerk's own provisional order, it says, an inspector has reported a violation of any provision of this chapter, portion or code enumerated in section 171-3B, or any other law or ordinance, the licensing order shall issue to the affected person a provisional order to comply. They have yet to state what ordinance, law, or provision of village code was violated by going over the number in this form. No one has yet told me what, and even in her own decision, she doesn't state what code, law, or provision of anything of New York State was violated.
Let me see. Are we supposed to call Sue Donnelly
No,
also as witness?
No,
or
because
just
she would
your-
have been the hearing officer.
She's
so
I got it. That's why.
that's
Okay,
why she's also
so
sitting in the back.
can you enlighten the team on that
The
idea?
view from the clerk with regard to the opinion was that the violation here again relates to the specific form completed by the applicant as part of his request for a liquor license. He, in order to have his refreshment license, which includes the ability to sell liquor, he has to comply with all of the ordinances that relate to that. That's both state as well as local. And the fact of the matter here is that as part of that, he files an application. Among the documents he files is document Mr. Cesari referred to called the method of operation. Another is the employment questionnaire, and it's the employment questionnaire known as an EQ, which specifically has the number of people. That number was violated. That's what the police determined on more than 4 occasions, if I'm not mistaken. I would have to go back over the number, but the police were there on multiple times and on multiple occasions. The count was certainly in excess of the 25. As Trustee Quezada noted, an application could have been filed to change it before anything was denied or before anything else was done. If it was up to the 76, then it would have been up to the 76. But this was his application. And again, it's an application to file with the state for the purpose of getting a liquor license.
Right.
which is
I think the
important thing.
board, I think we all understand that it's not some little document with some government. It's not like filling out a little form for my kid's school. It's an actual document that gets you a liquor license, and the numbers that you put in matter. They matter about how you set up your business. They matter about how you regulate it. They matter up and down the line. And so what I'm hearing is that that the clerk took into account all the documentation after multiple actions. Now, to make a decision, could you tell me the process for this particular hearing?
Yes.
Do we ask more questions? Do you bring a witness? Let me just go
I'm sorry, I
through.
apologize. Mayor, go ahead.
Do we give Mr. Cesari a last word? Like, what is the actual required process so that everybody is heard, so that since this is, being recorded, so people will understand how decisions are made, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the code does not lay out specifically how the hearing is to be
Okay.
done. What I would suggest is you've been provided with the transcript of the hearing on the 30th,
Yes,
the clerk's letter, and all the exhibits. So you all, as well as Mr. Cesari's letter. So you have all of that. I think it would certainly be appropriate for Mr. Cesari as the appellant in this case to have the last word, and he certainly should do that.
great.
And then my recommendation is that after our meeting tonight is concluded, as part of advice of counsel, there can be a discussion, and we can then and then the board can then promptly tell me what they want to do. And then a decision can be issued to Mr. Chisari with regard to his request to overturn the clerk's decision.
Okay, so I'm going to recap what you said, or at least the last part of it. So we are not, I understood that Mr. Chisari, it would be recommended that he wrap up his thoughts so that, or convince us otherwise of something maybe he forgot, maybe he wants to reiterate. After that, we would close the hearing. We will meet in executive session. Is that how this is done? The four of us
Advice
that
of
were here,
counsel.
advice of counsel, the four of us only, because Deputy Mayor is out this week. And we will deliver the decision to you,
Right.
and you deliver the decision to Mr. Chisari on behalf of his
A
client.
written decision will be prepared for you as mayor on behalf of the board to sign. It will then be forwarded to Mr. Chisari. That is
Okay,
correct.
and lastly, again, from a process, this happens really rarely, if ever, since I mean, have you ever had, you've been here longer than I have, never, right?
First time.
Okay. We've also not had this kind of back and forth. It's sort of interesting. So, I get that part of the process. Now, what I'd like to do is ask a separate question, which is if we overturn the clerk's decision, what are the next steps? If we do not overturn the clerk's decision, what are those steps, please?
I can certainly comment from the first part.
Okay.
If the board were to decide to reverse and overturn the clerk's decision, I would provide that to Mr. Chisari, and that would mean that the refreshment license would immediately go back into effect. At the refreshment, and I believe was the amusement license, both would immediately go back into effect. And the Serenita Lounge could continue to operate as it had before the suspension order.
And can you pause 1 second for that, Stuart? Because I was
Sure.
going to ask you something similar to that effect. But the issue is still the occupancy. So the occupancy is if Serenita Lounge goes back to operating, the limit is still 25.
I would say this, although I'm not the police and I don't write it, I
understand that.
I think it is my suspicion, if I could say this, is that if the police go in a future date and see in excess of 25, there will be another referral to the state liquor.
So pause that for 1 second and now,
Sure.
Mr. Chisaro, I'm sorry, mispronounce your name again. I apologize. So let's say we were to overturn the decision of the clerk on this case. Let's say everything goes back. I don't want to say to normal, but you get the licenses again. Your client still cannot update the license to change from 25 to 73, correct?
Correct. But also it should be noted, the State Liquor Authority doesn't even ask for a certificate of occupancy to be filed with the liquor.
It does,
license.
that's not the question though. That's not the question. So the question to me again is, even if we were to overturn the decision, you won't be able to make those changes from 25 to 73.
It doesn't matter what the board does here tonight. If you give it back, you uphold it, you overturn it. Until everything is resolved, they cannot do anything.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. Let's say we overturn the decision. The limit that your client has still 25. Is there a way that you can say to us, and you can make however you want to do it, and your conclusion that your client will have less or 25 people of an occupancy every time that he may be open?
We believe his legal occupancy is 73. That's the position.
Okay, so again, so we're going around circles. Okay, thank you, sir.
Well, my feeling is if we were to overturn it, we're basically saying it's okay to have more than 25.
That's
No, we're not saying that.
I'd be not.
I mean, it does feel
yeah.
like it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind
no,
of
I
a
understand.
tangled mess right now with this because
If
of
you-
this federal
if
lawsuit.
we overturn it, it just gives him the authority to operate again.
Up to 74 people.
No, 25.
Because that's the basis of this whole conversation. It
He
will
can
be
go back
25.
and work.
Do all police departments around the state use the number on these forms as their?
That I can't comment on.
I mean, is this a
I-
common
I-
thing?
Just know that this is what, when they're doing their referrals, this is one of the bases for, police have issued here many different types of referrals to the ASLA for different reasons. This is one. Mayor, the second part of your question was what would happen if you uphold the court's decision? That's more in Mr. Cesari's ballpark than mine, because that would really be a decision that they would have to make.
What happens after the 30 days?
I was reading your mind.
After the 30 days, the two licenses go back into effect as after August the 2nd, they go back into effect.
So the suspension is temporary in a way.
Yes, it was a 30-day
Oh, you
suspension.
missed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Ends in about a
It was
week.
not a revocation, it was a suspension.
Okay, I think we have, the purpose tonight is to get the facts. I think the bigger issue is the one that was brought up, which is Mr. Cesari's belief that the occupancy is 73, I guess. And the police belief that when you are regulated by state liquor authority, they have a right to an obligation when they see a bigger number than that, that's the number they're using. It seems to be, that's actually not for us to actually, that's not a legislative issue for us, from what I understand. That is an issue between the attorney, his client, and the state liquor authority,
Yes.
because it's a position that the police, and to answer your question, it's the same thing we did with other, we have to look at the state liquor license. Doesn't matter that we're not the state, because that's how people get licensed to sell liquors. You enter that business, you've entered into a highly regulated, government regulated business. Liquor is one of the most regulated. Can't just say, I didn't know I made a mistake. I mean, it's how you get your license and who you serve, and it's like a very big deal. And the police believe they're following the rule for everybody. Okay, we're not actually, I think,
I
I
have one
think
more question.
Mr. Cesari said it clearly, no matter what decision, I'm sorry, did you say
So,
something?
I have one more question for Stuart.
Please.
So being that there's pending matters, does it stop them from filing the correct paperwork and getting it up to Albany? Even though it won't be recognized because of the pending matter, but would it behoove them to have it there in place? So whenever that does get settled,
Probably is a better question for Mr. Cesari. I mean, but I would, I would think you would want to have the paperwork ready so that you could just get.
Yeah, until tonight, we didn't even know that was an issue, so I think Mr. Cesari actually answered it, but you can answer again for,
The state liquor
State
authority
liquor.
won't even accept the papers. They will reject them outright because there are other pending matters.
right, the pending matters is their pending matter that they started, so that's where we are. Okay,
There are other disciplinary issues that have nothing to do with occupant that are pending before the state liquor authority. They won't resolve them until the federal lawsuit is resolved with you all.
right,
Getting back to something you mentioned, I believe, Your Honor, about the enforcement of that number on the form with the state liquor authority. I've been doing this for over 15 years. And the only time the state liquor authority has ever come down, in my experience, to violate somebody for that number is when they've actually exceeded their certificate of occupancy, not the number on. So if they were in there and the police found 75 people, they would bring what's called a notice of meeting, which is an alleged violation. There would then be a hearing in front of an administrative law judge, who would then make a determination of whether there was an actual violation or not. In fact, these violations were sent up over 2 months ago. The state liquor authority has seen fit not to issue any alleged violations of any of their regulations in regards to this alleged over occupancy matter. So
and yet they're rejecting your request for other things, same liquor authority. So that's not really for my or our, I mean, it's interesting. and it's your point of view, and I understand that. There are always different points of view by different attorneys. That's why there's so many of them apparently. But for our purpose tonight, the only question I think we're being asked is whether the clerk, whether her decision either was wrongly done or that she overstepped her authority in what she did. And that's really all we're going to be looking at, because that's what's in front of us from, if that's what I understand that to be. Right, so did you have, sir, I don't know if he's made his final statement. So like we've asked questions, he's answered questions. Mr. Chisari, did you make your final statement, or did you want to make a final statement?
But I can rest on the fact that, again, in the decision, clerk has failed to establish what code enumerated in section 171-3B of the Village of Austin Code was violated, or any other law or ordinance that was violated. She has not pointed to any violation. Again, I'm not even saying a determination, but she hasn't even pointed to what section of the state liquor authority code was violated. Once again, she's enumerated no code provision or law that was violated. She just mentioned a form, an establishment questionnaire, but still hasn't said what, if there was a violation, what section it would have been. And that's your own village code. I'm not making that up. I'm not pulling it out of thin air. I'm actually reading it right from her letter.
Okay,
That's the standard of proof, and she's failed to do that.
okay, I understand your point of view. Now, does everybody understand the point of view? Everybody's good in getting that? Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, Stuart. I'll talk to you soon.
Sure. Mayor, can we have a motion?
Okay.
Can we have a motion to go into recess until 7:30 PM?
So moved.
Yes.
Second?
All in favor?
Hi.
Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Part 2 of our meeting. Stuart, do we have to do anything? We
No,
were
Mayor,
on
you're
a
just
break.
back in session.
Oh,
Okay.
back in session. So we will be back in the courthouse at some point, I think in 23, where we're much closer to the police station, and we used to do a little coffee. Looking forward to it. Karen's not happy. Welcome. Last week, we brought on a cohort of 4 police officers, which we're happy to have, to the Austin Police Department. Very exciting time. And now we have one more, which I believe is a transfer, which the chief will speak about. And I'm going, just so you know, I don't think you were there last week to see any of this. So we will, I as mayor, bring you on board. I'll say a few words, very few, and then the chief will say more words about you, and you'll get pinned. It'll be lovely. So let me come around. There's a microphone there.
Do we want to do the resolution first?
Oh, the resolution first. Sorry,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, Mayor.
sorry.
A resolution approving Marquise Randolph, I hope I said it correctly, as police officer. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining hereby appoints Marquise Randolph for a second-year police officer in the Village of Austining effective July 24th, 2023, and an annual salary of $75,819, which is the second-year salary. And be it further resolved that this appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 months and more than 52 weeks. Excuse
12
me,
weeks.
12 weeks. I apologize. 12 weeks nor not more than 52 weeks. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome. That's it. Now I do this one.
Chief, if you can use the microphone from the podium, that would be helpful.
Oh, we're done. This camera? Okay. So I was very nervous when I first did this, so I hold it up so you can read it, so that we both look like we were in shape and the camera's there. The only thing you have to do is fill in your name, and you have to actually speak into the mic. Raise your right hand, please. Thank you. I,
Marquise Randolph,
being duly sworn, state on my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust.
I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions.
Nope, the one more. Well, that's okay. I will, being duly sworn, state on my honor, I will, you start here.
I will never betray.
Being duly sworn,
I, Marquise Randolph, being duly sworn, state on my honor, I will
Bill.
never betray my badge, my integrity, and my character, or the public trust.
I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions.
I, Marquise Randolph,
Nope, just I will.
I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions.
Further, that I am a resident of the state of New York, and I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of New York.
Further, that I am a resident of the state of New York, and I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of New York.
I will obey all the ordinances, rules, regulations of the Village of Ossining, and will faithfully discharge the duties of Ossining, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Police Officer in and for the said Village of Ossining, New York, to the best of my ability.
I will obey all the ordinances, rules, and regulations of the Village of Ossining, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Police Officer and for the said Village of Ossining, New York, to the best of my ability.
Wonderful. Congratulations, sir. It's nerve-wracking. People don't realize, where's the pin? Hello, and you are?
I'm his mom.
Congratulations.
Thank
My name's Rika Levin. I'm the mayor
Thank
here in
you.
the village. You're pinning.
You can stay there. I won't lean on you too much. All right, so another new join. Taking pictures, cool.
Picture time.
Yeah, no, we'll have fancy pictures, lots of pictures, 1 million pictures. Then we're gonna take more pictures. So sort of unique for our job in a long time. We haven't had a transfer in quite some time coming from a police officer. He's started as an active police officer in the city of Mount Vernon. We like to hire people that are new cops because we like to create new jobs. And sometimes when you take a transfer, that becomes somebody else's job to make the new cop. But in this case, when someone comes in and strikes you as so perfect for your agency and you look at them and they have so much to bring. We have all different types of people that come by and drop applications to work with us and bring their resumes. And everybody has a different story. And sometimes they drop them off with the wrong person's name on them because they've handed out so many resumes that they've got a different chief or the wrong job. And you can tell that people are just shopping all over town. But Marquise walked in and he said, I only have one resume, so I know it's right because it's the only place I've gone. And I met with a detective in my job, somebody that I know personally and I admire. He said, that guy looked at me and said, you're built for Ossining. That's the place for you to be. And it's the only place you're going to go to apply. When somebody comes in with that kind of determination to join our team, we know that we've got the right person. We talked last week about doers. Everybody's a good cop here, but some people are doers. The doers are the people that make things happen. Don't just go along for the ride. Marquise talks about the things he's done in Mount Vernon to go out and help kids. And when his proudest moments are the disarming of an armed child and the compassion that he shows in solving problems and not just making arrests, not just doing cop stuff, but really making the world a better place. We know that we found the right person for our community. We are so excited to have you here. We tried to make you senior to the other 4, but don't worry. There'll be more after you. You'll pick up that seniority in no time. We're thrilled to have you and your family here tonight. Congratulations. We expect a lot from you.
You need to sign with the clerk right there. Don't have the lady here. It's like nobody here. Oh, you're having a girl? Yes. Wonderful. I'm not biased, but they're great. Is this your first? No. Okay, do you want to do some pictures or are we going on to other items? because then we're just going to, and they can go off. Okay, do the trustees want to take a picture with the new officer?
Sure.
Great. We're gonna go out here because the lighting and stuff in here. Let's take a picture because we do like to post it when we have new officers. It's a big deal for our community. And we'll do that, and then you guys can take your own pictures, okay? We're gonna go to another meeting.
The school board is discussing the private family for that mention. Because the ASC is sent to happen to the divorce. This is the first meeting. July 1st. Because they would otherwise do the superintendent, they started in Tarrytown July 1st. I believe she was July 1st. But she's got years of, I mean, so for her, frankly, coming from Spring Valley, this is she was, and then she retired, and then she got appointed as an honor.
Huh?
You could start them walking back.
Okay, so tonight we have public hearings. Three of them. Let's start with the first one. Public hearing on local law amending chapter 250 vehicles and traffic of the Village of Austin Code. Any comments?
Nobody here. Jamie, is there anybody on Zoom?
There's one person who, if she would like, she can raise her hand and I will bring you over. She has not raised her hand.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to
Mayor, just briefly, what this local law is, deals with the municipal lots, primarily with 16 Croton Avenue. It lays out when parking is and is not available. And also has it in a much more reader-friendly format now, which we've all worked on very hard. So that's this particular local law. And once it gets filed, after the vote, if the board is amenable, we'll have the board would approve, and then it will get filed, and then we will have the particular parking restrictions explicitly as they relate to 16 Croton Avenue.
Thank you. And right now what we're voting on is whether we want to close this
Public
public hearing.
Correct.
have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so this
That's
will
it.
go on, I guess, for the next one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sue?
Proposal, a proposed local law, chapter 7, candidate disclosure of the Village of Austin Code. Do I have a motion to?
So
No.
move.
No,
let
No.
them
sorry,
first.
No.
I'm just opening the public hearing.
Opening the,
Oh.
is there anybody that would like, there's nobody in this room at this point. So
Right.
Jamie, is there anybody that would like to comment on this public hearing about the proposed law for candidate disclosure?
At this time, no one has raised their hand.
Okay, I will simply comment that we discussed this at length. This is a proposed law that candidates running for office at our level for the village and only the village follow what the county had done, I guess, a few months ago, based on what's going on in national politics, that when candidates run, they should disclose truthfully their history. And there was a lot of discussion about it. We made a few changes. It should be noted that there's no ability to enforce it. People who are elected by the public. They don't get fired or hired as staff does. And this does not affect the staff in the village. It is simply a code for the elected officials. We made some very minor changes, et cetera, et cetera. So we are not aware that any other village or town in Westchester followed suit with the county. They may have, we are not familiar with any that have, but I think it's maybe symbolic to some people, and you might say, so what? But it matters. It matters that you model what you believe in, and that you walk and talk at the same time, that you believe in what you believe in, and that people running for office should be truthful about their where they went to schools and some of their past history, so what they're saying to the public is truthful. So that's the gist of that in a couple of minutes. So we need
Anybody?
to have a motion to close.
No one's, okay, a motion to close the public hearing on a B, local law for the candidate disclosure. Do I have a
So moved.
motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, number three, C, a proposed local law, chapter 57 video conferencing for public bodies of the Village of Austin Code. Anyone that wishes to speak on that?
At this time, the guest that is in the gallery is not raising her hand.
A little reminder of what this is, Stuart?
Yes, Mayor. The board previously adopted a local law with regard to video conferencing to be in conformance with the state law. There was a recent amendment to the public officers law, which would allow a board member who is under a medical disability to attend the meeting remotely, and that person's attendance would count towards a quorum. Currently, if the member is not in attendance, but is participating remotely, they cannot count towards the quorum. So this would allow for a greater ability to count towards a quorum if someone cannot be there because they are disabled.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Fantastic. Mayor and trustee announcements.
okay. Any announcements, folks? Oh, I see trustee White.
So there's going to be a new bricks and mortar business in town starting
Mm.
Saturday. Juana Empanada is
Yep.
opening a storefront on North Highland. I think there used to be a pizza place there. So we all know how amazing their empanadas is. And the cool thing is they were originally a food truck, right? And now they've got a storefront. So it's kind of
They're adding a storefront, or
they're adding a storefront.
so
They've had a
both.
truck,
Yeah,
but now they're going to have their own store. So I'm looking forward, and they're having a big opening celebration Saturday.
Yep.
So on North Highland on the right, I don't know the exact address. I think it used to be Pizza Corner there
Yes. And it's from 12 to 5.
from 12 to 5. Okay.
music,
Music,
entertainment,
Mm.
etc.
empanadas.
Great spot. It's a good
Yeah.
spot. I think it's good for the
It'll be
village.
fun.
On this side, Manny?
I just want to say that's pretty good. I love empanadas, but for me, my mom's empanadas are the best. So it's a big.
We may have to have a
to that.
cook-off with them. I see that coming. I don't have any major announcements. I'm hoping for a dry weekend. I'm sort of getting a little bit sick of the rain. I know the flowers and everything's green, but frankly, I'm looking for some nice weather. I was not at the block party. I don't know that occurred right before this meeting. We had a meeting at 6:30. Was anybody able to attend, Chief? How did that work out? Nice, lots of people. There were I'll put in my mayor's message. There is so much going on in this village. A lot being done by the village itself as a municipality for families, free concerts, free family gatherings, all sorts of great stuff. So few municipalities do this that I'm going to be actually speaking about this a little bit more. Very exciting to live here. A friend of mine actually was looking to move out of Ossining. They're empty nesters. They bought a house here when she was pregnant, and the kids are have their own kids now. I made friends with her because I became a trustee. That's how I met her. And she called me up and said, we're not moving anywhere. We looked around. This is just a wonderful place to live. We go down to the waterfront that looks better than it's ever looked. She mentioned the Five Corners only because she was always worried about the safety there when people go with strollers with the babies and stuff and people with crutches. She was always concerned. She said, it just looks great. The farmer's market was great this past Saturday. That's my segue that we were at the farm 9 to noon, meeting with the public. We had very nice feedback from the public. It's our engagement with the public. We have Thursday, tomorrow, right? We have the Transformational Thursday. This one's about ROI. It's not as cute as some of the names we've given some of our sessions, but it's something people care about. So please join us. It's always at 6 p.m. They last just about an hour. We really do look forward to it. We're super interested about what the public has to say. So there's just a lot. Everything okay? I don't say so. No. Looking forward to that. So that was my segue from one thing to the next. And just want to let the board know, because I haven't had a chance to write the email, but I'm connecting with our youth advisory bureau with the kids and trying to give them their own little 2 to 3 hour tour of the DRI initiatives that we're doing. And we're setting that up with Shima Monday. So all really nice things, good things. Okay. Do you mind if I let the chief go first, folks, instead of the manager, so that he could go to some other meeting that he has, and that way he could leave after his portion and then we can continue.
All right, thank you. Just a couple things going on with the police department this last few weeks. This morning, Lieutenant Mayor Rana and I returned from the New York State Association of Chiefs of Police Annual Conference, where I finished my term as president. So 5 years on the board, and I'm glad to be
Wow.
free from that.
5 years? Wow, congratulations. I didn't realize the tenure was so long. Wow, impressive.
It was. Had issues there that we got training on, such as legal updates, emerging issues in policing, which included things like ghost guns and emergency risk protection orders, some traffic safety stuff, leadership. On Monday, the 4 that we swore in last week began the police academy. They're off to the races. And as you mentioned earlier, today was the first of our block parties in partnership with the school district and Feeding Westchester and a number of other community groups. So still looking to plan more stuff for the summer, trying to fit it into our staffing issues, which are challenging, but very quickly being resolved with all the new hires coming in. Looking forward to be presenting more candidates over the next couple of months to the board and bringing us up to full staffing very, very soon. That's all for the police.
Great. Thank you. Does anybody need the chief for any other or any of your announcements you think he needs to hear? Okay. Sue, was that your signal for something? No? Okay, good. No problem. All right. Oh. Okay. Thank you, Chief. Dale, happy birthday, by the way. I'm just like, I realized I wrote in my notes on my iPhone, but my iPhone's off. So that's not going to be helpful. Happy birthday.
Thank you
29,
very much.
Right? 29, yeah?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
I can't be older than my mother.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
village manager, you're up.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Madam Treasurer. You may have noticed if you're driving downtown that the 5 Corner intersection was paved last week. And we are not quite finished with that project yet. The piece de resistance will be the signaling, which will go in sometime in October. We are waiting for that equipment to come. So we're happier to that we now have safer walkways, and the paving was a little bit challenging. We tried to do it with as little impact as possible. We will get better and better at making sure that our local businesses are aware so they can plan accordingly. I have to commend Paul and the Department of Public Works and the contractor. They've really been doing a great job, and the project is moving along on budget and in a timely fashion. Our next major streetscaping and paving project is James Street, and we'll be meeting with our colleagues from the County Planning Department this Friday to discuss specific timing and logistics, but it looks like that project will start the end of the summer, so sometime in August. We will also be meeting with a contractor, the contractor regarding the pool and locker room renovations this week. And that project too is going to start, it looks like, we're going to cement these details towards the end of August. It will start. So we will be getting out communication, and Jamie will be working with us and attending the meeting to make sure we get communication out to all of our community center members, and so they know when the pool will likely be closed, and that would probably be starting at the end of August for about 2 months, hopefully less, but we want to make sure that we overpromise, underpromise and overdeliver, or overpromise, underpromise. I got it right the first time. It's been a long day. We're not going to underpromise, but the elevator work has been completed and we're just awaiting the final inspection. And we also want to paint the doors that surround the elevator to better match the new elevator that is now enclosed in them.
Wait, are you
So
saying we can actually use the elevator? Like I can use it, or we're not allowed to because it next week?
you can use it now, but at your own risk. No, it hasn't had it should be fine, but we have to wait till the final inspection. So,
Okay.
but at long last. And as the mayor mentioned, we had our first Market Square project outreach, community engagement pop-up at the farmers market. And that was a nice event where we talked about our DRI projects and initiatives. And also, as the mayor mentioned, our next Transformational Thursday, which also talks about the projects that we're doing mainly in the downtown, but we have some others too, is scheduled for tomorrow night. And we will be talking about return on investment and the strategic alignment and collective benefits of these community projects, which all can stand on their own merits, but collectively really do work to provide a significant community and economic return on our investment. And next week, Deputy Mayor Omar Lopez will be leading our first DRI walking tour on Wednesday, July 26th, starting at 9 o'clock. And we will be meeting at the community center and taking a tour of our project sites, which will walk down Main Street all the way down to Station Plaza. And then we'll take the shady pathway up through the Sing Sing Kill Greenway, back up to the community center. And we anticipate that that will take about 2 hours. So we should get everybody home by 11 a.m. And that concludes my update for this week.
Great. Questions? All righty.
Corporation Counsel?
Thank you, Stu. Good evening, everyone. On Tuesday, the 25th, Deputy Corporation Counsel Tanksley, paralegal Lisa Ferguson, and I will be getting trained through Laserfish on our new program, which will allow us to handle discovery documents for the courts. It is a rather large task, even be given, as I may have explained before, literally every matter that goes into court, we have to provide documents to the defendant, be they pro se or represented by counsel. And it's not just the documents, it's the photographs, it's potentially disciplinary reports, it's a lot of stuff. So we're going to have a way that we're going to put this all together. It will come in seamlessly to us. Lisa has been working on it hard to get these statements of readiness out. So it's sort of a whole new world that we're working on. So it's very helpful. Also on.
I'm assuming it makes the process go more smoothly, faster, because so much of it is now done manually. Is that the point?
Yes, also.
Once all the glitches are out, I'm sure there aren't any glitches, but let's assume there might be one or two. Once you get good at it, it's supposed to help with the process.
Yeah, particularly because we're under a very tight deadline to get this done.
Okay.
By under state law. In addition, thanks to our friends at FBS, last week, Deputy Corporation Counsel Tanksley and I had a training session with Dennis Farrell, and I'm just waiting for the final go-ahead from our IT consultant here, but I'm sure we will get it. Sonia and I will have direct access to the parking ticket calendar in advance of the parking ticket calendar, which is like, an amazing thing to think about. We will even have access to it from our home computers or our laptops at home. And we'll be able to basically deal with request to dismiss and all things like that, so that we can essentially shorten our time and also shorten the court's time, which is really a nice, a major advance. We started the process actually this week with the computer that is in the prosecutor's office. And basically we can now see every ticket that is issued for everyone, every parking ticket that is, including the history on those particular tickets, how much is owed, and what the DMV has with regard to these particular drivers. We have virtually everything that the court has, but obviously we cannot deal with the ultimate dispositions. That's the court side of it. But we have basically a full prosecutor's catalog of what we can do with all the different tickets. And it's nice to be able to do that, rather than in the past, we would get a folder which would be this big of all the parking tickets on a given night, and we would have to go through each one, write it out. This way we'll have it, we can print it, get it to the court officer, and it's done. So it's it will make things much more seamless and much easier. So it's nice to have that starting and getting under control.
When did it didn't start last week? They had a problem, right? Or is it the week before?
The week before,
When did it, you said it started.
well, what started on Monday night was the ability to access the computer in the prosecutor's office to deal with those
Right.
tickets. As I said, once we have the okay, and I'm going to check with Christina tomorrow, we'll be able to put it on my office computer and our two laptops so that we can deal with as I said, with the calendars
Yeah,
anywhere.
but
at
I
any
think
time.
last week they had a problem. They had to resolve whatever that problem was.
If there was a problem, I was not made aware of it.
Yeah, they
But,
had to adjourn a lot of the cases.
Well, that I think is from other issues that deal with certain tickets and things like that.
Oh, okay.
But the computer end of it, which is what FBS is helping us with,
Oh, I see. So
is-
their
is-
end is working.
is of immense help. They have a really easy program, easy that I can do it. So
Great.
it's one of those programs, which is great.
Great.
This coming Tuesday night is a planning board meeting. And it is there is no August meeting, so it's a pretty busy agenda. There is at least one referral from this board, which is the text amendments with regard to cannabis cultivation. That will be on there. I will let this board know, we did get a recommendation back from the planning board with regard to in lieu parking. That's something we'll present to the board at a later date so that
Okay.
that can ultimately come back. But if anyone wants to watch the planning board meeting, it is online with all the documents that are there. And so please feel free to do so. And other than that, a lot of lengthy resolutions coming up. And so Sue and I are going to split the job in a little while, but otherwise, thanks a lot.
I miss when Martha would read through them in like 12 seconds. Not that we understood, but zoom through them. There was speed reader galore. Okay, do we have
Okay.
anything else right now? You're all done? Okay, great.
Okay, organizational announcements. Announcements shall be event related only and shall not last more than 2 minutes. Is there anyone that needs to do an organizational announcement?
We're
There's
looking
no
at
one
you.
in our audience,
No,
Jane.
I understand. There's two people in the audience. One I don't believe is going to be raising their hand. The other one might.
Okay. And,
It doesn't look like he's raising his hand. Okay.
okay, next.
Public comments on agenda items. Visitors shall be accorded a 1 4-minute opportunity to address the board on any resolutions on the agenda.
Does anybody in the gallery would like to raise their hand? No, it doesn't look like it.
Okay, thank you. Visitor recognition. Visitors shall be accorded a 1 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not related to the agenda, but relevance to the common good of the village.
No hands are raised.
Okay, thank you. Village Board resolutions. Approval of minutes, June 25th and July 6th. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of June 21st, 2023 special meeting and July 6th, 2023 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Can we do both? Because I think I wasn't at
That's
one,
fine.
but I was
So,
at the other.
If we can, let's split it.
Okay,
June-
not a
June
problem.
21st First, then we'll do July.
Resolved
6th.
that the board, let's do over. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the June 21st, 2023 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second,
I was not there, so I
You were there.
abstain.
No, you were there.
Okay, so Mayor.
You were not on the July. On July 6th.
I was on the special one. I was one of the three, but I wasn't on the one after that.
So on, based on this. So on June 21st. You were here.
Okay.
Hold on, President.
I'm looking, let me look at my calendar, then I'll.
Based on this, you were here, you were with us.
As I recall, we had to hold the June 20th, the vote for these minutes because we did not have,
Yeah,
we didn't have three people. who were-
Okay.
who were at that meeting.
Oh,
Right, so
we're at
I
the-
was at the 21st, it looks like. What was the next one
the
after
next
that?
one is July 6th. Which
That is,
I was not there, Bob was not there, but
Oh,
that was in the morning.
then we can't vote on those
But we
meetings.
We can't
cannot
vote
vote
on
on
July
that.
6th because
Correct.
okay,
we can vote on July, on
June
June
20.
21.
right, so I was.
Okay,
there.
so you're all there and
Yeah.
do I have, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
We'll hold June 6th.
Okay,
July
yeah.
6th.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated July 19th, 2023 in the amount of $426,536.27. Do I have a motion?
Don't move.
Second,
I'm sorry. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Just, and I'm sorry, I guess,
Oh,
so
did you-
just the, on the resolution on the website, we just need to put that in there and. the
It's,
link to the
it's
back.
being taken care of
Okay.
simultaneously.
Okay, cool.
That was when you said, what are you doing? And I said,
Oh.
trying to get people's attention.
Okay.
Okay, adoption of the revised sexual harassment and discrimination prevention policy for the Village of Austin. Whereas New York Labor Law, Section 201-G requires that the Department of Labor to consult with the Division of Human Rights to create and publish a model sexual harassment prevention guidance document and sexual harassment prevention policy. And whereas the village staff has reviewed the village's current 2018 sexual harassment policy and sexual harassment policy of the Austin Police Department, May 2019, SOG-2002 of the Austin Volunteer Fire Department Standard Operating Guidelines, Workplace Violence and Harassment, and the Model Sexual Harassment Prevention Policy promulgated by the state. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustee adopts the following sexual harassment and discrimination prevention policy for the Village of Austin effective immediately, and be it therefore further resolved that the sexual harassment and discrimination policy of the Village of Austin shall be promptly posted all over the village buildings and including the firehouses and any owned or leased by the Village of Austin, and therefore be it resolved that the sexual harassment and discrimination prevention policy of the Village of Austin will be provided to all new employees upon hiring and at the time of the annual sexual harassment prevention training. The entire policy is posted on the bulletin board at the clerk's office. It's also online. And I just want to get through the pages of it, and you have a copy at your desks. I dropped off a copy there. And I apologize. Should have had tabs.
This is basically all being adopted for, to be in line with the state
Yes,
policy.
Correct.
It's not a Village of Austin on its own.
Well, it's
It is being
Sorry.
it's being adopted to be in line with, may not be word for word, but it's being adopted to be in line with the state, correct?
yes, that is correct, Mayor.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second,
Any comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Village of Austin Board of Trustees expression of support for the payment in lieu of tax pilot agreement, including sales tax exemptions between the Westchester County Industrial Development Agency and 136-140 Croton Avenue LLC or
Western.
McQuestion Development LLC for the property located at 136-140 Croton Avenue. Whereas McQuestion Development LLC received site plan approval from the Village of Ossining Planning Board for the construction of a 3.5-story, 99,140 square foot building containing multifamily residential flex community and retail space in a 0.8 acre parcel on the south side of Croton Avenue. Pages are so thick. And whereas McQuestion Development LLC and the Board of Trustees and the village staff have been discussing the payment in lieu of taxes or the pilot agreement between Westchester County Industrial Development Agency or the IDA and 136-140 Croton Avenue LLC in care of the McQuestion Development LLC, including sales and use tax exemptions. And whereas the village and McQuestion Development LLC have agreed to the proposed pilot schedule annexed in this resolution as Exhibit A, and whereas McQuestion Development LLC has agreed to the installation of 6 decorative streetlights, 1 to 2 bicycle racks, and 1 to 2 benches at site. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees supports the efforts of and fully cooperate with the 136-140 Croton Avenue LLC in care of the McQuestion Development LLC to obtain financial assistance for the above described project from the Westchester County Industrial Development Agency for the abatement of the real property taxes pursuant with the pilot agreement in accordance with the schedule annexed in this resolution as Schedule A and the sales and use tax exemption. Do I have a motion?
So second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry, any comments?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It was-
I missed a step. Comments,
Yeah,
please?
Stuart,
Yes.
help me understand this one, because last time that this particular applicant was in front of us, the question that I had was more like, if we can have insurance where there will be literally these apartments will be for seniors and not kids will be additional to, it will increase the school kids. And he said that that should not be a problem, that they should be able to accomplish that. Is that something that we can incorporate that as a part of the resolution as well? Because I know other municipalities have done that.
I don't know if it's part of the pilot resolution. I'd also have to check the planning board resolution because it might be in there that it's senior only. I think you want senior only, but no kids, which I think is the other.
Well,
part.
that's what they were
I remember
promoting,
they
sure.
It says,
But I would.
No,
have
it does
to
say
go-
seniors, yeah.
in the whereas,
There is a reference.
There
that
is a
senior-
where-
There is
well, it
there's
says
a
also,
portion. of it.
it's actually very specific. So doesn't that mean that's actually, so, but you could argue that a 64-year-old could have a child, right? Living with them.
Yeah, or grandkids.
Oh, grandkids, I'm
or
sorry,
The
yeah.
portion of this, the reason why I was saying that in the discussion that I had with him last time, it was, we were trying to, he was selling us where there was not increase to the school kids. And to ensure that, I wanted to have something in the resolution to be part of that and reflect that.
I'm just not sure. And I mean, I would have to think about it as to whether we could put into, because this is a resolution to approve essentially that we're not going to oppose a pilot. And I know we have what is in there. I would have to go back and look at the planning board resolution specifically as to what it says there. And to see if we can put language in which would effectively say that, in essence, in a whereas clause, that they will not add any more, have any children. I guess my only question with regard to that is that if you're a senior and you become the caregiver for a child, is that something that we could enforce? And I honestly
Well, they
don't
do,
know the
they
answer right
they
now.
certainly do it at 55+ community.
according to Mr. Epicel, that is something that
Okay.
is enforceable. That was my conversation with him.
Okay.
I think that it would be a good idea to memorialize that in some point and make sure that HCR doesn't feel differently about that. But
So,
So we won't be able to do this resolution without that, is what I think.
No, you're just.
I should.
no, this is,
This is
correct.
the-
This is not the pilot.
Pilot
This is
is-
just to go to the county. misunderstanding this?
This is basically so that, if I understand correctly, the process, Mr. Apicella or McQuestern can then go to the county and say, the village is okay with the pilot and here's the schedule.
Correct.
Because that's all of,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
idea is
This
we
is
do a
not supporting the
schedule.
pilot right now.
Right,
just yet.
this is just the pilot itself. And then ultimately, it will come back that the village has to sign off on the pilot. But what we're saying here is, just so it's clear, we are supporting the efforts of and will fully cooperate with the county, with McQuestern to do the pilot. So what you're effectively saying is, this is the pilot, this is what we've agreed to, and county, this is what we want.
I don't
to
think you
do.
can back out of that. I think.
Yeah,
once-
that's.
I
what
think
I'm-
once you say yes, how would you then say, I understand the nuance here, but how do you then go back and say, we said on this day that we're supporting this
This.
pilot,
But then we saying something.
but
else.
then
We adding something.
well, the person can agree and say, you're absolutely right. Well, I have no problem with that, but they may say, I disagree. You can't really backpedal here. You are actually approving a pilot here.
Well, you're approving, I want to be clear, because you're right, I don't want to slice it. We're saying that the pilot schedule
Right.
that is annexed here is the pilot that we are fine with. That basically, that's the schedule that we want the county to approve.
That's the pilot. How do we get to the point that he wants? Once the pilot's approved, how do we get to that point?
You could do one of two things. One would be that you could hold the resolution and add essentially a whereas clause, which would include that language. You could do that. And I could put that on for, we have a special next week anyway, so we could do that next week, which would include essentially that in addition to the, with 73 units of affordable senior housing above, there would be another that there would be no children. You know, it would just be seniors, and that could just be an extra whereas clause. And we could just put that in, and that would then be the resolution that he would carry to the county, so that the county would know that this is part of it. What I would suggest actually is where it says, whereas McQuestern has agreed to the installation of the decorative lights, it would also say McQuestern has agreed that there will be no children in the, children as part of this development. I mean, you could put that
I mean,
in.
again, that's just my opinion.
No,
There's
agree.
there's
It's part of
other
the discussion. It's about.
board members here, yeah.
It's all of a sudden.
Can we amend it today?
Children, it's like, the whole idea is that we're approving this, we're doing a pilot. It's being subsidized by people, by taxpayers in this community, but you cannot, but there are issues, and if somebody may come into a life situation where they have a grandchild, the answer is then you have to find another apartment. That's actually the way this works. You do all these subsidies and giveaways to create this these scenarios for people who need affordable senior housing, which is a necessity. But there are parameters, and we've been discussing parameters, and this is
Correct.
a parameter.
So,
And this was the discussion all along. It
So-
just needs to be-
so my suggestion would be then, why don't we
Table.
entertain a motion to table the resolution? We do have a special meeting next week, and we can
Okay.
come back to it at that point.
Is that what you're saying?
I
That's
mean,
your
again,
opinion, you're not
that's my
speaking-
opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf.
Terry, I agree. Any
I'm
comment?
fine with it. I'm fine with it.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
we have a motion to table the resolution.
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't think it's gonna be a big deal.
No. I'm happy to make the change.
Do we need to-
DPW bid award materials, supplies and services from July 20th, 2023 to July 2nd, 2025. Whereas New York State provides for a municipality to advertise and award bids for certain materials, supplies and services as specific therein through the use of biannual bid process, allowing the purchase of such items to be a fixed cost for the municipality. Therefore, it be resolved that the Board of Trustees awards the bids for materials, supplies, services in accordance with the attached recommendation from the Department of Public Works and Water Department, which recommendations are circled, and therefore be it resolved that the aforementioned award for materials, supplies, and services be effective July 19th, 2023 to June 2nd, 2025. And there's a whole list of,
And Sue, let me just make one thing. There was the final resolve paragraph, that should be July 2023. to match the title of the resolution. It says July 19th.
Oh, I
at the very last par-
apologize.
No, no,
Okay.
it's when
Yeah.
I put it together.
Okay,
So it should be, the last paragraph, folks, would be resolved that the aforementioned award for materials, supplies, and services is effective July 2023 through July 2, 2025.
so the numbers go. Set.
Right.
Do I have a motion to the amended resolution?
So move. Second.
Mhm. Any comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to my illustrious partner.
Okay, and let's get to this. Okay, authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance, 100% of the federal aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. Wherefore, a project for the Westerly Road paving and sidewalk improvements, Village of Ossining, Westchester County, PIN 8763.02, the project is eligible for funding under Title 23 U.S. Code as amended that calls for the apportionment of the costs such program to be borne at the ratio of 80% federal funds and 20% non-federal funds. And whereas the Village of Ossining desires to advance the project by making a commitment of 100% of the non-federal share of the costs of preliminary engineering and right-of-way incidentals, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees hereby approves the above subject project, and is further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Village of Ossining to pay in the first instance 100% of the federal and non-federal share of the cost of preliminary engineering and right-of-way incidentals work for the project or portions thereof, and is further resolved that the sum of $21,000 is hereby appropriated from the general fund operating budget and made available to cover the cost of participation in the above phase of the project, and is further resolved that in the event the full federal and non-federal share costs of the project exceed the amount appropriated above, the village board shall convene as soon as possible to appropriate said excess amount immediately upon the notification by the village manager thereof, and is further resolved that the village manager of the Village of Ossining be and is hereby authorized to execute all necessary agreements, certifications, or reimbursement requests for federal aid and/or applicable Marcaselli aid on behalf of the Village of Ossining with the New York State Department of Transportation in connection with the advancement or approval of the project and providing for the administration of the project and the municipality's first instance funding of project costs and permanent funding of the local share of federal aid and state aid eligible project costs and all project costs within the appropriations therefore that are not so eligible. And is further resolved, in addition to the village manager, the following municipal titles, assistant village manager, village engineer, and village treasurer, are also hereby authorized to execute any necessary agreements or certifications on behalf of the municipality sponsor with the NYSDOT in connection with the advancement or approval of the project identified in the state local agreement. And is further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be filed with the New York State Commissioner of Transportation by attaching it to any necessary agreements in connection with the project. And it is further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Stuart, I need the 30-second pitch on this and what we're talking about here.
Sure.
Why we
Matt,
need,
can,
and why we need different people all of a sudden that we haven't added before.
a few things, and the assistant village manager will help me out. This is a form resolution that is provided by the DOT.
Oh.
And so it is basically, we just filled in essentially the Village of Ossining, but they do want the names of other folks who could sign off in the event. And that would be like payment requisitions and things like that, so that the process can go smoother for funding. But this is basically, except for the Village of Ossining and how we've appropriated in the amount, all comes from a pre-printed resolution from the state.
Okay, any specific project?
There sure is. Good evening, Mayor, Board. I see that our village engineer, Paul Fraioli, is on as well, so I'm sure that he can fill in some blanks. But this is actually, I think it's $171,000 even that we received as a grant from the Department of Transportation that we're going to be using to repave and replace and repair sidewalks along Westerly Road, which is something that I know we've been talking about for quite a long time. We're hoping to sort of zipper this in with the Hudson River Estuary grant that we also received last last year, I believe it was, to work on some sea level rise resilient strategies for privately owned property along the Hudson. So hopefully when we are done working with those folks, we'll be teed up to do the work that we discussed with them. So we're thinking probably spring of next year, Paul, is what I think we discussed today.
Okay,
Paul's smiling and nodding.
all right. That's all we need, a nod. Okay, I see a
I-
question.
Yeah, I do have a question. So we're talking about westerly. So from where to where? Is that from the beginning to end? Or halfway? Or how do you
Yeah.
guys have this mapped out?
Paul, I don't have the
We,
letter in front of me that we sent to DOT. Yeah.
Yeah, we roughly, we estimated that we're gonna go from the train station to the footing of the Snowden Bridge. And the scope will include sidewalk rehabilitation and road restoration. And some ADA accessibility improvements. And I'll note that this was one of about 9 projects we discussed today in our first meeting with everybody that's collectively going to be working on the processing of these grants as design and construction commences. It's a pretty arduous task, and this is just one of the many that's going to be going down in the next couple of years. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be money well spent, and tying it into that other project on the waterfront is a good idea, because there's plenty going on down there lately, and because there is, we should have appropriate thoroughfares for bicyclists and pedestrian as well as the vehicles.
Got you. Thank you, Paul. So let me ask you, now that you sort of mentioned and brought up some key points, I guess. You and I talked about this a couple of years back, and I think we had several conversations within the village, as village staff as well. Is there a possibility to work with MTA and try to create some additional areas in there within MTA land, I guess, or right of ways?
I don't think I understand the question.
So across Westerly Marina, sure, there's a big stripe of where before the tracks, obviously, the MTA did some work. They have a chain link fence in there. We talked about maybe widen the street, maybe put some landscape in there, maybe put some more parking in there. Is there a possibility to do anything on that side closer to the tracks?
Yeah, they're pretty stringent on their right of ways. It's more than anything else. It's not just that they have extra property that they're not utilizing. There's a lot of instrumentation in that right of way that's underground, and a lot of telecommunications that they use on the trains. And so they're not going to give up that property. In fact, their right of way extends onto Westerly in a couple of areas down there, including where the Sing Sing Kill discharges into the Hudson. Their right of way goes right to the water there. So there's going to be some nuance that we have to go through with them. But you're right, we're not so much looking to widen the road, but we are definitely looking to expand into some of the grass areas there for pedestrian sake on both sides. So yes, we are going to have some coordination, but I don't think land acquisition or use transfer is going to be in the scope.
Yeah, no.
One thing.
Yeah, and
one thing that.
Sorry, go ahead.
One of the more complex things down there is going to try to get the utility companies to work with us to relocate some of their above ground utilities, the electric poles and such, because they're kind of presently in the way of the sidewalks, and there's really no other place to put them. One of the first things that we discussed today in our grant meeting, when we do get the okay to move along after this resolution to start scoping and funding this project, is to do a very detailed topographical and meets and bounds survey for that area. And I think we can really drill down on some potential encroachments that are going on down there. And then we can really define the scope, and it might help us address some of the aforementioned issues.
And I agree with you, and I'm glad that you actually brought up utility poles and all this other stuff, and hopefully work with Con Ed. But if you're talking about ADA accessibility, as soon as you make an ADA ramp, that means that you have to make some sort of widen the sidewalks. And if you widen the sidewalks in some sections, that means that you're making the road smaller. So that's the reason why I was asking for you to look into that and possibly work with MTA in some sections of that area so you can have a better accessibility for pedestrians or bicycles, as you mentioned. So the more things that we put in, but we don't have the room. If we work with the encroachments that we have right now, everything that we put in is not going to work properly. That's my concern. So if we're going to start thinking outside the box, let's think outside the box. If we're going to be putting, bike lanes, cars, pedestrians in such a narrow area, my concern is it's not going to work the way sometimes works on paper. So, but I'm looking forward to see whatever happens in there. I think it's going to be great and improvement.
That's the scope. It might not be perfect at the end of the day, but we will have the minimum requirements for MUTCD and such for pedestrians and cars. But whether it's perfect or not, it's going to be orders of magnitude better when we're done. So we're looking forward to getting that done. It needs it in that area.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's the waterfront's going through a lot of enhancements. Not so much changes, but I think enhancements over the next 5 years or so. Thank you. Any other comments? Anybody? Okay, Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sir?
DPW authorization to advertise for bids, materials, supplies, and services for the period August 1, 2023 to July 2, 2025. Whereas the Board of Trustees previously authorized the village clerk to advertise for bids for materials, supplies, and services to be used by the Department of Public Works, Water Department, and the Building Department for the period of August 17, 2023 through May 31, that should be 2025. And whereas bids were received and have been reviewed by the Corporation Council and staff in the Department of Public Works and Water Department, and whereas the bid document stated the Village of Ossining reserves the right to reject any and all bids or to accept the bid from the lowest and responsible bidder. And whereas the Village Water Department by the Water Superintendent determined that bids for the following 4 chemicals, chlorine, sodium hypochlorite, potassium permanganate, and hydrofluorosilicic acid should be rejected, and that these chemicals should be rebid. And whereas the recommendation to reject the bids is due in part that the low bidders made material changes to the contract specifications. And whereas in Conduit and Foundation Corp. Versus Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the New York Court of Appeals wrote, only upon a showing of actual impropriety or unfair dealing, i.e. favoritism, improvidence, extravagance, fraud, and corruption, or other violation of the statutory requirements, can the decision to reject all bids and re-advertise for a second round of bidding be unlawful. And whereas the Village Department of Public Works by the village engineer determined that the bid for landscaping and snow removal services needed to be rebid as the sole bidder neglected to provide the cost for the work. And whereas the Water Department subsequently determined that bids should be accepted for 4 additional chemicals used at the water treatment plant, sodium hydroxide, phosphoric acid 36%, phosphoric acid 75%, and phosphoric acid 85%. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees concurs in the determination by the Water Superintendent and Village Engineer to reject the bids received for chlorine, sodium hypochlorite, potassium permanganate, hydrofluorosilicic acid, and landscaping snow removal services. And be it further resolved that subject to review by the Corporation Council, the village clerk is authorized to advertise for bids for the following materials, supplies, and services, contracts for the period of August 1, 2023 to July 2, 2025, such bids to be returnable to the village clerk. Materials and supplies, water treatment plant chemicals, chlorine, sodium hypochlorite, potassium permanganate, hydrofluorosilicic acid, sodium hydroxide, phosphoric acid 36%, 75%, and 85%, and landscaping and snow removal for the village building department. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments,
Yeah,
questions?
how long did you practice those? Because you rolled them off like it was no big deal.
I wish to
If
thank the
I
water
didn't try.
superintendent for all of his assistance.
Now I know why Sue let you read it.
It was my break.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Call for a public hearing, proposed honorary street naming for Sandy Galiff. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to take place on August 2nd, 2023 at 7:30 PM at the Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, Ossining, New York, to consider the proposed honorary street naming at the intersection of Church Street and South Highland Avenue as Sandy Galiff Place in honor of Sandy Galiff pursuant with the village's honorary street naming policy, and be it further resolved that the members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be it further resolved that those members of the public requiring a reasonable accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to the person's disability shall notify Corporation Counsel no later than 7 days before the public hearing at kahan@villageofaustining.org to afford the village significant time to provide a reasonable accommodation, and be it further resolved that those members of the public who want to attend or participate in the public hearing remotely will access the Zoom platform as when it will be provided. And be it further resolved that the comments regarding the proposed honorary street naming will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at bot@villageofaustining.org. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Any comments? I think we've discussed this a bunch, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fire Department appointment, Hollow Hose Company number 5. Resolved that upon recommendation of the Fire Chief, Edward Castro Casillas, Ossining, New York, it was elected as an active member of Hollow Hose Company number 5 for an interior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Fire Department removal of active roles, Washington Hook and Ladder Company number 2. Resolved that the Board of Trustee hereby removes Corey Spencer from the active roles of the Ossining Fire Department, Washington Hook and Ladder Company number 2. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Intermunicipal agreement with the town of Ossining Water. Resolved that the village manager is authorized to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Ossining for water services for a 15-year term commencing January 1st, 2023 and expiring January 30th, 2038.
So
It's
just-
July
it's a
1st.
July
20
I'm sorry.
June 30th.
June 30th.
Sorry, let me read it over again.
Sure.
Resolved that the village manager is authorized to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Ossining for water services for a 15-year term commencing July 1st, 2023 and expiring June 30th, 2038. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you want to?
Oh, did you want to
Oh,
come?
okay. No, we're good.
All right, continuing business of the board. Is there any continuing business of the board?
So,
Sorry.
do we want to talk about the bond? Okay, so, the reason we have, Dale here on her birthday.
Yes, I was waiting
Yeah,
for, I was
is-
waiting
is
to hear
that-
why she's on.
And unfortunately, we're doing it towards the end of the meeting. So, as the board knows, we're applying for, a total of $40 million in funding for the new water treatment plant. We're really hoping that we will get at least part of that funding, but hopefully all of it. One of the requirements of the IMG grant is, we need to have a bond resolution that reflects the most recent bid estimate that we have. Our bond resolution currently is a bond resolution that was done in 2021, and that reflects a pre-bid estimate that was slightly lower than the one we received in 2020. It was January 2022, or January 23 rather, that we received a bond resolution that was for a higher amount. So we are going to have to amend that bond resolution so that we can submit it in with the application. And we'll have, that's why we're going to have a special meeting next week to have a resolution that the board can vote on. But Dale, do you want to maybe explain a little bit more detail or answer any questions that the board may have?
Sure. Essentially, in this case, because we had previously already approved and adopted a bond resolution for the 63,160,000 amount. What we are asking the board to vote on next Wednesday is a supplemental resolution, basically. So it's for issuance of an additional 15,241,528 for bonds. Once these two resolutions are complete, they will go forward with the grant application. If this was not done, then it will just automatically be disqualified our grant application.
What-
In looking,
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
Dale, I
Yep.
mean, it went from 63 to 68. Why 15 million?
So this is where, Dale, the original, why don't you
The-
explain
the-
the differential? Because it's the construction cost as well as all the costs that have been really accrued for the project to date, separate from the construction costs.
So essentially for the bond resolution, we do have to put in the total project costs. So regardless of the prior amounts that we've actually already borrowed and actually will also be paying off in September of almost $4 million in bonded money. It's inclusive of any grant funds that we are going to be allocating or receiving for this project. So it includes the 3 million for the WIA grant, the 160,000 for the GIGP grant, the 2.5 million of ARPA funds. And we had also previously transferred $97,778 when we were doing the tree work. So for the bond resolution in 2021, the total estimated project costs were the 63,160,000. Of that portion of the project budget, 53,033,000 was for the construction proper of the bricks and mortar portion of the building. With the new estimate we received in January of 2023, that construction portion estimate had now increased to 68,402,000. So essentially, that's what's driving the increase to the total project costs. In the end, at this point, once the bids are received, because we have put it out to bid, they're expected to be received in the beginning, mid-September, I believe. And going through the evaluation process and awarding that bid in late November is my understanding. We will have a better grasp on what the actual costs are. Essentially, right now, we have to rely on the most recent estimate for project costs that we did receive from Hazen. That project cost estimate cannot be any older than 6 months. So we are just hitting the line with that estimate. But essentially, at the end of the day, with this project, we are only going to borrow the funds necessary. And if funds are borrowed just for cash flow purposes, because that happens too, especially in the case of getting a $30 million grant, you know, then when we actually go to finalize the bond, and then that's where we're putting it on our books for 25 or 30 years. It will be net of every grant we've received, any payments we've made, you know, along the way. I just wanted to point out that for the $30 million grant amount, if we are awarded it, it will save us $1,853,000 in annual debt payments, which represents a 15% water rate increase. So I just wanted to add that out there.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
No, that's like, you know, getting grants is not easy and the odds are not high. So now, after Dale gave me sort of the cold water in my face, I feel like, no pun intended, amazing what the costs have done to municipalities like ours. You know, it's not just COVID, it's just the rate of increase of costs of everything. But it's beyond our control, actually, and we need to have the water plant. Every municipality should be doing what we're doing, but look at what you have to go through.
We are, you know, we are lobbying very heavily, and we have our state representatives, Assemblywoman Levenberg, Senator Pete Cartnum. I spoke to Assemblyman Steve Otis today, who also has, is advocating for us. We've had our bond counsel discussed, advocate on our behalf with the legal team at EFC. So, a lot of times you don't quite fit into the round, you're a bit of a square peg in a round hole. And while I think there's an understanding of the need, certainly, and we're demonstrating that, we do have a little bit of an unusual situation in that in a typical application, two municipalities come and they both put down their check, and they're doing, it would be impossible financially. There's no way the town can do that. They couldn't bond. It would be hard for them to bond $5 million, let alone really the 25 million that they would have to justify for their portion. So we really are making the case to the state and anyone who will listen that the idea of the restrictions of, or the interpretation of the grant has to take into consideration the intent of the grant. And this is in every sense a intermunicipal agreement that's designed to create greater government efficiency and provide more resources for less money and less burden to what is considered a disadvantaged community based on EFC data of Ossining, which is the majority of the ratepayers. So we're really making that argument hard. So hopefully we have better than a slight chance, but we're going to give it our all, and this is part of it.
I get it. I think we're doing such the right thing that, let's hope that our state representatives can pull it for us. Okay.
All
We're
right,
voting.
new business of the board. Resolution authorizing the village manager to execute such documents as necessary to complete the application for the New York State Intermunicipal Water Infrastructure Grant, IMG program. Whereas the Village of Ossining seeks to rebuild the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant, and whereas the village intends to apply for financial assistance in the amount of $30 million from New York State Intermunicipal Water Infrastructure Grant, IMG program, to offset the local expense of the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant project. Now therefore be it resolved that the village manager is authorized to execute such documents as necessary to complete the application of the New York State Intermunicipal Water Infrastructure Grant Program, subject to review and approval by Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments?
Yes.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Could I just quickly ask a clarifying question?
I'm sorry.
The line that you didn't read, Clerk Donnelly, November 2023, does that need to be amended now that I understand that the bid is on the street? Expected to be competitively bid under New York State statutes, should that have changed to has been bid competitively as of July?
Why don't we, if the board is okay, whereas, we'll do the second paragraph, whereas the project is being competitively bid under the New York State statute effective July 2023.
So moved as amended.
Thank you.
Second?
All in favor, comments?
Yeah, just want to say thank you to everybody that actually did and touched this application for a grant. So I'm going to ask you to look for another 2 grants like this so we can actually.
Well, the next
do
one,
anything.
next was 10 million.
But no, I really, I think it's a great work. I hope we've been lucky enough. Our community's been lucky enough to be getting grants, some of them matching grants. But in this case, if we can utilize this, we can get this better than anything else, it'd be great, to great benefit for all of us. So I really appreciate all the hard work. Andy, Paul, the staff, Maddie, Karen, everybody, Stuart, everybody that did all the work for this application. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing the village manager to execute such documents as necessary to complete the application for the Empire State Development's Mid-Hudson Momentum Grant Fund Grant Program. Whereas the Village of Ossining seeks to rebuild the Indian Point water treatment plant.
Indian Brook.
I mean, it's Indian Point. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry. It's late and it's been a long week so
That's a
far.
bigger job.
Yeah. Whereas the Village of Ossining seeks to rebuild the Indian Brook water treatment plant, and this will be amended. And the project is expected to be competitively built in New York by New York State statutes in July,
Of July 2023.
July 2023. As amended. Whereas the village intends to apply for financial assistance in the amount of $10 million for the Empire State Development's Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund Grant Program, and to offset the local expense for the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant project. And now therefore be it resolved that the village manager is authorized to execute such documents that are necessary to complete the application of the Empire State Development's Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund Grant Program, subject to review and approval of Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
Oops.
I forgot to say thank you, Dale. Happy birthday.
And so this is another 10 million. Again, we're hoping to get one or both of them. We'll see what happens.
That's approved. Okay, all in favor as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjournment to executive session for litigation,
Matters of litigation.
Matters of litigation.
matters of litigation and advice of counsel. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 8:50.
Ladies and gentlemen, 8:55 this Wednesday. We've been here since 6:30. Very productive evening. We're going to go to our next meeting. We hope that you join us tomorrow for Transformation Thursday. We hope that you give us your feedback as needed. A lot of exciting projects going on. Hope that we have a dry weekend so everybody can finally enjoy some decent weather. And we are adjourned.